Hello, Cardinals, and welcome to today's installment of Cormac McCarthy's The Road. He studied the sky. There were days when the ashen overcast thinned, and now the standing trees along the road made the faintest of shadows over the snow. They went on. The boy wasn't doing well. He stopped and checked his feet and retied the plastic. When the snow started to melt, it was going to be hard to keep their feet dry. They stopped often to rest. He'd no strength to carry the child. They sat on a pack and ate handfuls of dirty snow. By afternoon, it was just beginning to melt. They passed a burned house, just the brick chimney standing in the yard. They were on the road all day, such as there was, such few hours. They might have covered 3 miles. He thought the road would be so bad that no one would be on it, but he was wrong. They camped almost in the road itself and built a great fire, dragging dead limbs out of the snow and piling them on the flames to hiss and steam. There was no help for it. The few blankets they had would not keep them warm. He tried to stay awake. He would jerk upright out of his sleep and flap about him looking for the pistol. The boy was so thin. He watched him while he slept, taut face and hollow eyes, a strange beauty. He got up and dragged more wood onto the fire. They walked out to the road and stood. There were tracks in the snow, a wagon, some sort of wheeled vehicle, something with rubber tires by the narrow tread marks, boot prints between the wheels. Someone had passed in the dark going south, in the early dawn at latest, running the road at night. He stood thinking about that. He walked the tracks carefully. They'd passed within 50 feet of the fire and not even slowed down to look. He stood looking back up the road, and the boy watched him. We need to get out of the road. Why, Papa? Someone's coming. Is it the bad guys? Yes, I'm afraid so. They could be good guys, couldn't they? He didn't answer. He looked at the sky out of old habit, but there was nothing to see. What are we going to do, Papa? Let's go. Can't we go back to the fire? No, come on. We probably don't have much time. I'm really hungry. I know. What are we going to do? We have to hole up, get off the road. Will they see our tracks? Yes. What can we do about it? I don't know. Will they know that we're here or what we are? What? If they see our tracks, will they know what we are? He looked back at the great round tracks in the snow. They'll figure it out, he said, and then he stopped. We need to think about this. Let's go back to the fire. He thought to find some place in the road where the snow had melted off completely, but then he thought that since their tracks would not reappear on the far side, it would be no help. They kicked snow over the fire and went on through the trees and circled and came back. They hurried, leaving a maze of tracks, and then they set out back north through the woods, keeping the road in view. The site they picked was simple, the highest ground they came to, and it gave views north along the road and overlooked their backtrack. He spread the tarp in the wet snow and wrapped the boy in blankets. You're going to be cold, he said, but maybe we won't be here long. Within the hour, two men came down the road almost at a lope. When they had passed, he stood up and watched them, and when he did, they stopped, and one of them looked back. He froze. He was wrapped in one of the gray blankets, and he would have been hard to see, but not impossible. But he thought probably that they had smelled the smoke. They stood talking, and then they went on. He sat down. It's okay, he said. We just have to wait, but I think it's okay. They'd had no food and little sleep in 5 days, and in this condition, on the outskirts of a small town, they came upon a once grand house sited on a rise above the road. The boy stood holding his hand. The snow was largely melted on the macadam and in the south-facing fields and woods. They stood there. The plastic bags over their feet had long since worn through, and their feet were wet and cold. The house was tall and stately, with white Doric columns across the front, a porte cochere at the side, a gravel drive that curved up through a field of dead grass. The windows were oddly intact. What is this place, Papa? Shh, let's just stand here and listen. There was nothing, the wind rustling the dead roadside bracken, a distant creaking door or shutter. I think we should take a look. Papa, let's not go up there. It's okay. I don't think we should go up there. It's okay. We have to take a look. They approached slowly up the drive, no tracks in the random patches of melting snow, a tall hedge of dead privet, an ancient bird nest lodged in dark wicker of it. They stood in the yard studying the facade, the handmade brick of the house kilned out of the dirt it stood on, the peeling paint hanging in long dry sleevings down the columns and from the buckled soffits, a lamp that hung from a long chain overhead. The boy clung to him as they climbed the steps. One of the windows was slightly open, and a cord ran from it and across the porch to vanish in the grass. He held the boy's hand, and they crossed the porch. Chattel slaves had once trod those boards bearing food and drink on silver trays. They went to the window and looked in. "What if there's someone here, Papa?" "There's no one here." "We should go, Papa." "We got to find something to eat. We have no choice." "We could find something somewhere else." "It's going to be all right. Come on." He took the pistol from his belt and tried the door. It swung slowly in on great brass hinges. They stood listening. Then they stepped into a broad foyer floored in the domino of black and white marble tiles, a broad staircase ascending. Fine Morris paper on the walls, water stained and sagging. The plaster ceiling was bellied in great swags, and the yellow dentil molding was bowed and sprung from the upper walls. To the left through the doorway stood a large walnut buffet in what must have been the dining room. The doors and the drawers were gone, but the rest of it was too large to burn. They stood in the doorway. Piled in a windrow in one corner of the room was a great heap of clothing, clothes and shoes, belts, coats, blankets, and old sleeping bags. He would have ample time to think about that later. The boy hung on to his hand, and he was terrified. They crossed the foyer to the room on a far side and walked in and stood. A great hall of a room with ceilings twice the height of the doors, a fireplace with raw bricks showing where the wooden mantel and surrounding had been pried away and burned. There were mattresses and bedding arranged on the floor in front of the hearth. "Papa," the boy whispered. "Shh," he said. The ashes were cold. Some blackened pots stood about. He squatted on his heels and picked one up and smelled it and put it back. He stood and looked out the window. Gray trampled grass, gray snow. The cord that came through the window was tied to a brass bell, and the bell was fixed in a rough wooden jig that had been nailed to the window molding. He held the boy's hand, and they went down a narrow back hallway to the kitchen. Trash piled everywhere, a rust-stained sink, smell of mold and excrement. They went on to an adjoining small room, perhaps a pantry. In the floor of this room was a door, or hatch, and it was locked with a large padlock made of stacked steel plates. He stood looking at it. "Papa," the boy said, "we should go, Papa. There's a reason this is locked." The boy pulled at his hand. He was almost in tears. "Papa," he said, "we've got to eat." "I'm not hungry, Papa, I'm not." "We need to find a pry bar or something." They pushed out through the back door, the boy hanging on to him. He shoved the pistol in his belt and looked out over the yard. There was a brick walkway in the twisted and wiry shape of what had once been a row of boxwoods. In the yard was an old iron harrow. In the yard was an old iron harrow propped upon piers of stacked brick, and someone had wedged between the rails of a 40-gallon cast iron cauldron of the kind once used for rendering hogs. Underneath were the ashes of a fire and blackened billets of wood. Off to one side, a small wagon with rubber tires. All of these things he saw and did not see. At the far side of the yard was an old wooden smokehouse and a tool shed. He crossed, half dragging the child, and went sorting through tools standing in a barrel under the shed roof. He came up with a long-handled spade and hefted it in his hand. "Come on," he said. Back in the house, he chopped at the wood around the hap staple and finally jammed the blade under the staple and pried it up. It was bolted through the wood, and the whole thing came up, lock and all. He kicked the blade of the shovel under the edge of the boards and stopped and got his lighter out. And then he stood on the tang of the shovel and raised the edge of the hatch and leaned and got a hold of it. "Papa," the boy whispered. He stopped. "Listen to me," he said. "Just stop it. We're starving. Do you understand?" And then he raised the hatch door and swung it over and let it down on the floor behind. "Just wait here," he said. "I'm going with you. I thought you were scared. I am scared. Okay, just stay close behind me. He started down the rough wooden steps. He ducked his head and then he flicked the lighter and swung the flame out over the darkness like an offering, coldness and damp, an ungodly stench. The boy clutched at his coat. He could see part of a stone wall, clay floor, an old mattress darkly stained. He crouched and stepped down again and held out the light. Huddled against the back wall were naked people, male and female, all trying to hide, shielding their faces with their hands. On the mattress lay a man with his legs gone to the hip and the stumps of them blackened and burnt. The smell was hideous. Jesus, he whispered. And then one by one they turned and blinked in pitiful light. Help us, they whispered. Please help us. Christ, he said. Oh, Christ. He turned and grabbed the boy. Hurry, he said, hurry. He dropped the lighter, no time to look. He pushed the boy up the stairs. Help us, they called. Hurry. A bearded face appeared blinking at the foot of the stairs. Please, he called, please. Hurry, for God's sake. He shoved the boy through the hatch and sent him sprawling. He stood and got out of the door and swung it over and let it slam down, and he turned to grab the boy, but the boy had gotten up and was doing his little dance of terror. For the love of God, will you come? He hissed. But the boy was pointing out the window, and when he looked, and when he looked, he went cold all over. Coming across the field towards the house were 4 bearded men and 2 women. He grabbed the boy by the hand. Christ, he said, run, run. They tore through the house and the front door and down the steps, and halfway down the drive, he dragged the boy into a field, and he looked back. They were partly screened by the ruins of the privet, but he knew they had minutes at most, and maybe no minutes at all. At the bottom of the field, they crashed through a stand of dead cane and out into the road and crossed into the woods at the far side. He redoubled his grip on the boy's wrist. Run, he whispered. We have to run. He looked toward the house, but he could see nothing. If they came down the drive, they'd see him running through the trees with the boy. This is the moment. This is the moment. He fell to the ground and pulled the boy to him. Shh, he said. Shh. Are they going to kill us, Papa? Shh. They lay in the leaves and the ash with their hearts pounding. He was going to start coughing. He'd have put his hand over his mouth, but the boy was holding on to it and would not let go, and in the other hand he was holding the pistol. He had to concentrate to stifle the cough, and at the same time he was trying to listen. He swung his chin through the leaves, trying to see. Keep your head down, he whispered. Are they coming? No. They crawled slowly through the leaves to what looked like lower ground. He lay listening, holding the boy. He could hear them in the road talking, voice of a woman. Then he heard them in the dry leaves. He took the boy's hand and pushed the revolver into it. Take it, he whispered, take it. The boy was terrified. He put his arm around him and held him, his body so thin. Don't be afraid, he said. If they find you, you're going to have to do it. Do you understand? Shh, no crying. Do you hear me? You know how to do it. You put it in your mouth and you point it up. Do it quick and hard. Do you understand? Stop crying. Do you understand? I think so. No. Do you understand? Yes. Say, yes, I do, Papa. Yes, I do, Papa. He looked down at him, and all he saw was terror. He took the gun from him. No, you don't, he said. I don't know what to do, Papa. I don't know what to do. Where will you be? It's okay. I don't know what to do. Shh, I'm right here. I won't leave you. You promise? Yes, I promise. I was going to run to try to lead them away, but I can't leave you. Papa? Shh, stay down. I'm so scared. Shh. They lay listening. Can you do it when the time comes? When the time comes, there will be no time. Now is the time. Curse God and die. What if it doesn't fire? It has to fire. What if it doesn't fire? Could you crush that beloved skull with a rock? Is there such a thing being within you that sorry. Is there such a being within you of which you know nothing? Can there be? Hold him in your arms just so. The soul is quick. Pull him toward you. Kiss him quickly. He waited, the small nickel-plated revolver in his hand. He was going to cough. He put his whole mind to holding it back. He tried to listen, but he could hear nothing. I won't leave you, he whispered. I won't ever leave you. Do you understand? He lay in the leaves, holding the trembling child, clutching the revolver. All through the long dusk and into the dark, cold and starless, blessed, he began to believe they had a chance. We just have to wait, he whispered. So cold. He tried to think, but his mind swam. He was so weak. All this talk about running, he couldn't run. When it was truly black about them, he unfastened the straps on the backpack and pulled out the blankets and spread them over the boy. And soon the boy was sleeping.